Mintonet begins, 1895 to 1900. Before the roaring spikes and Olympic lights, there was Mintonet. That's what they actually called it. In 1895, William G. Morgan, a YMCA instructor in Massachusetts, wanted a sport that was less intense than basketball but still kept people moving. So he grabbed a tennis net, strung it up above head height, and made the rules up on the spot. His new creation? A game with no dribbling, no contact, and absolutely no idea it would ever go global. Back then, there were no six-man teams, no rotations, and definitely no dive saves. It was just a bunch of guys lightly tapping a ball back and forth in a gym. But something about it worked. It wasn't loud, it wasn't violent. It was smooth, skillful, and endlessly addictive. Mintonet didn't make headlines, but it laid the foundation. And with one small tweak, changing the name to volleyball in 1896, the sport's quiet revolution had officially begun. The YMCA spread, 1900 to 1915. If Morgan planted the seed, the YMCA watered it with global reach. By the early 1900s, YMCA branches were spreading volleyball like wildfire across the US, the Philippines, China, India, and South America. American missionaries, soldiers, and teachers treated volleyball like a warm-up game, but for other countries, it was fresh, fun, and full of possibilities. In the Philippines, locals started jumping to hit the ball, something Americans hadn't even thought of. They literally invented the spike. Meanwhile, in Japan, the game was evolving into a disciplined team sport full of sharp footwork and perfect positioning. There were no pro leagues, no international tournaments, not yet. But volleyball was already mutating, adapting to different cultures. People didn't just copy the American style, they made it better. By 1915, volleyball wasn't just an American YMCA hobby, it was becoming a worldwide language. Wartime globalization, 1915 to 1946. Then came the chaos. 2 world wars. But weirdly, they helped. During World War I and World War II, American soldiers brought volleyball with them to Europe, Asia, and the Pacific Islands. They set up nets wherever they could. Beaches, army bases, backyards, even bombed-out buildings. Volleyball became the go-to off-duty game, cheap, simple, and didn't require much gear. But while Americans played for fun, other nations took notes. Japan, the USSR, and Eastern European countries began shaping volleyball into something precise and technical. What started as recreation started looking like a real sport. Meanwhile, rules were a mess. Every country played it differently. Scoring systems, team sizes, ball touches, everything varied. The sport needed a backbone, a global standard, a real federation. That moment was coming, and when it hit in 1947, volleyball was never the same again. The FIVB is born, 1947. Volleyball had gone global, but the game was chaotic. No unified rules, no major tournaments, and definitely no clear governing body. That changed in 1947 when 14 countries met in Paris to create the FIVB, the Fédération Internationale de Volleyball. For the first time, the sport had a global authority. Standardized rules were written, official competitions were planned, and volleyball officially leveled up from fun gym game to full-blown international sport. This era was about cleaning up the mess. Every country had its own way of playing. Some used 9 players, others didn't rotate, and some still didn't allow spiking. The FIVB said, enough. 1 court size, 1 net height, 1 game. More importantly, they were already thinking big. World championships, Olympic aspirations, and elite-level national teams. Volleyball finally had structure, and now it needed a stage. The first World Championships, 1949 to 1952. The FIVB didn't waste time. Just 2 years after forming, they launched the first Men's World Championship in 1949, and the first Women's followed in 1952. This was volleyball's first shot at going legit on a global stage. And guess who showed up to dominate? The Soviet Union. Their men's team was a machine, tall, ruthless, and precise. Their women, just as cold and clinical. While the West still treated volleyball like recreation, Eastern Europe had turned it into military science. Their players were full-time athletes, and their systems were brutal but effective. Meanwhile, Japan started to rise on the women's side, mixing discipline with next-level quickness. Volleyball had found its rivalries and its drama. These first championships weren't televised, there were no big endorsements. but they were historic, because this was the moment when volleyball went from playgrounds to podiums. The Olympic arrival, 1964. 1964, Tokyo, volleyball had made it to the Olympics, and it was perfectly timed. TV was booming, global politics were tense, and sports were becoming a battlefield for national pride. Volleyball entered that storm with a clean, elegant game, and nations were ready to fight. The host country, Japan, captured hearts by winning the first ever women's Olympic gold, playing a style that was faster, smarter, and more team-oriented than anyone had seen. On the men's side, the Soviet Union struck first, serving notice that they planned to run the court for years to come. This wasn't just another tournament, this was a statement. Volleyball was no longer a maybe sport. It was in the biggest arena in the world, and it fit like a glove. From that moment, volleyball wasn't just global, it was official. And things were about to get serious. The Soviet lockdown, 1964 to 1976. Once the Olympics gave volleyball legitimacy, the USSR gave it fear. For over a decade, Soviet teams dominated both men's and women's play with cold-blooded efficiency. They weren't playing for fun, they were playing to prove communism was superior, and they used volleyball to do it. Every player was handpicked, trained full-time, and coached like soldiers. Setters were flawless. Hitters were ruthless. Defense relentless. They weren't flashy, they were unstoppable. On the women's side, they crushed with power. On the men's side, they used size and discipline to destroy teams point by point. The USSR didn't just win matches, they won eras. And while countries like Poland, Bulgaria, and Japan tried to keep up, they were playing against a system built for domination. This was volleyball's Cold War, and the Soviets were winning it. The Japanese innovation era, 1968 to 1976. While the Soviets brought power, Japan brought innovation. They couldn't match the size, so they built speed. And what came out of it was revolutionary. Japan's women's team introduced fast sets, synchronized movements, and back row attacks that had never been seen before. Every point felt like a choreographed performance. Quick, efficient, and perfectly timed. This wasn't volleyball built on brute force, it was strategy and precision. They didn't just try to win, they made opponents chase shadows. Meanwhile, Japan's men's team was climbing too, taking gold in the 1972 Munich Olympics, shocking the volleyball world with their clean, technical dominance. Their influence spread everywhere. Coaches around the world started copying Japanese drills, warm-ups, and play styles. In a sport obsessed with height and power, Japan proved you could win with rhythm and brilliance. And they didn't just change the game, they sped it up forever. The USA breakthrough, 1984 to 1988. For decades, the US was barely a blip on the volleyball radar. Then came the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics, and everything flipped. On home soil, the USA men's team, led by Karch Kiraly, shocked the world and won gold. Suddenly, American volleyball wasn't just catching up, it was setting the standard. The US brought something new. Science-based coaching. They studied player stats, reactions, angles, turning volleyball into a numbers game. And it worked. In 1988, they proved it wasn't a fluke, winning back-to-back golds in Seoul. Karch became a volleyball icon, not just in America, but worldwide. Meanwhile, the women's team was building momentum too, even though they fell short of gold. They laid the groundwork for what would become a powerhouse program in future decades. This era wasn't just about wins, it was about arrival. America had entered the chat, and they came with data, muscle, and one legendary mullet. The Brazil wave, 1880s to 1990s. If the USSR played like robots and Japan like clockwork, Brazil played like artists. Starting in the late 80s, Brazil injected the game with something it had never seen before. Flair, jump sets, lightning-fast attacks, and celebration dances after every point. Their offense wasn't just efficient, it was beautiful. The men's team burst into the spotlight by winning silver in the 1984 Olympics, and finally took gold in 1992, powered by stars like Tunde and Giovanni. Their chemistry was electric. No yelling, no egos, just pure rhythm. The women's team was building too, not as dominant yet but fast, dangerous and impossible to ignore. What made Brazil different? They played with joy, and the world felt it. They made volleyball emotional, loud, and wildly unpredictable. And from here on out, Brazil was a permanent threat on every international stage. Beach volleyball goes Olympic, 1996. Volleyball wasn't just evolving, it was splitting. In 1996, beach volleyball made its Olympic debut in Atlanta, and it instantly felt like a different sport. 2 players, open sky, deep sand, loud crowds, and a vibe that was pure California. And right away the GOAT showed up. Karch Kiraly became the first and only player to win Olympic gold in both indoor and beach volleyball, proving that greatness doesn't care about the surface. Meanwhile, Brazil wasn't about to let the US have all the sand. Their pairs dominated the world tour, bringing that samba energy to the beach scene. What made beach volleyball explode was its simplicity. 2-on-2. Every point is a test of endurance, touch, and IQ. No coaches yelling from the sidelines, just vibes and volleyball. And by the late 90s, beach was no longer a spin-off, it was legit. Rally scoring changes everything. 1999 to 2001. If you think volleyball's always been point every play, you're wrong. Before 2001, matches were slower, messier, and full of side outs where nobody scored for 5 minutes. That all changed with the rally scoring system, where every rally counts. This single change flipped the sport upside down. It made matches shorter, sharper, and way more watchable, especially on TV. And it came with another twist. The final set, now played to 15, became a pressure cooker. No lead was safe. Every point mattered. Fans loved it. Players, not so much at first, but over time it became the global standard. And volleyball was finally packaged for the digital era. This wasn't just a rule change, it was a pacing revolution. And it brought volleyball into the modern world. The European powers rise 2000 to 2010. While the US and Brazil were battling for headlines, Europe was quietly building killers. Countries like Italy, Russia, Poland, and Serbia started flooding the game with 6-foot 7-inch monsters who could jump out of the gym and hit through walls. Italy built its dynasty with legends like Samuele Papi and Andrea Gianni, winning World League after World League. Poland brought the crowd, their fans turning every match into a soccer-style war zone. Serbia came in with iron discipline and a defense-first mentality, and Russia, well, they just kept being terrifying. Europe didn't play cute, they played tall. Their leagues got stronger, their youth systems got smarter, and suddenly, every major tournament had a Final Four packed with Europeans. This was the rise of the super teams. And they weren't just good, they were cold-blooded. The Asian Queens, 2000s to 2016. While the men's game was becoming a power showcase, the women's game was undergoing a revolution of its own, led by China, Korea, and Japan. China reclaimed dominance with a new generation of towering, ultra-skilled hitters, peaking with Olympic gold in 2004 and 2016. Their combination of size and surgical precision made them terrifying in every rotation. But the breakout star of the era? Kim Yeon-kung of South Korea. 6 feet 4 inches, explosive, unstoppable, and the face of global women's volleyball for nearly a decade. Her performance at the 2012 Olympics wasn't just dominant, it was iconic. She was scoring 30, 40, even 50 points in a single match and doing it with calm, cold-blooded focus. Japan too remained a technical powerhouse, using floor defense and speed to beat taller teams. This era proved one thing: the women's game had arrived, and Asia was leading the way. The libero and system era, 2000 to 2015. By the early 2000s, volleyball had changed from chaos to choreography, and the MVP of that transformation, the libero. Introduced in 1998 and fully integrated by the early 2000s, this undersized jersey color swapped back row specialist flipped defensive strategy forever. Suddenly teams had a defensive quarterback, reading attacks, chasing impossible digs, and turning chaos into control. And alongside the libero came system volleyball, structured rotations, set plays, passing lanes, and data-driven analysis. Teams weren't just reacting, they were orchestrating. The game slowed down mentally but sped up physically. Perfect passes became the expectation, not the goal. First ball side-outs became a religion. This wasn't the era of improvisation, it was the era of execution. And volleyball officially became less freestyle, more formula, but still somehow thrilling as ever. The VNL and globalized stage, 2018 to 2020. Volleyball had gone worldwide, but it didn't have a Netflix-style showpiece. That changed in 2018 with the launch of the Volleyball Nations League, USSR VNL. And suddenly, everything looked different. Weekly matchups between the world's best teams, HD cameras, booming arenas, and highlight reels engineered for YouTube. The VNL wasn't just a tournament, it was a content machine. And the teams? They adapted fast. Brazil, Poland, and USA kept dominating, but Turkey, Japan, and Serbia crashed the elite tier. New names rose, like Paula Egonu, Yuji Nishida, and Zara Gunesh, who weren't just stars, they were viral sensations. This era made volleyball binge-worthy. Clips exploded across Instagram. TikToks of one-handed digs hit millions. And the game started reaching new fans who had never watched a full match. The VNL wasn't just an upgrade, it was a global volleyball rebrand. The TikTok and Instagram era, 2021 to 2023. Then came the algorithm. Suddenly, volleyball highlights weren't tucked away on sports networks, they were front and center on your phone. One no-look set, one pancake dig, one savage spike. That's all it took to go viral. Players became creators. Zara wasn't just a middle blocker, she was a fashion icon. Yuji Nishida wasn't just a freak athlete, he was the guy in volleyball memes. Even college players like Maddie Skinner and Skylar Fields built massive followings. Fans didn't need to wait for the Olympics anymore. They could binge top plays between classes, and guess what? They did. Volleyball wasn't just a sport. It was an aesthetic, a vibe, a content engine. This era didn't change how the game is played. It changed how the game is seen. And who's watching? The modern power era, 2023 to present. Welcome to now. The volleyball you're watching today, it's faster, taller, smarter, louder. The men's game is dominated by monsters like Poland, Italy, and Brazil. Teams built like skyscrapers with rocket arms. Jump serves top 130 kilometers per hour. Offenses run at insane tempos. The middle hitter is basically a blur. Meanwhile, the women's game is the most competitive it's ever been. Turkey, Serbia, USA, Brazil, China, and Italy all taking turns as world champions. No one's safe. Every point is earned. Every match feels like a final. And it's not just about talent anymore. It's about data, tactics, and depth. Wearable sensors, video analytics, load tracking, volleyball has officially gone high-tech. This era has no single dynasty, just a battle of heavyweights year after year. And it's only getting more intense. Conclusion. From dusty YMCA gyms in Massachusetts to packed stadiums in Tokyo. From Mintonet to million-view TikToks. From 6'0" hitters to 6'10" hybrids with footwork like dancers. Volleyball didn't just grow, it evolved. Every era brought new rules, new heroes, and a totally new style of play. Some brought speed, others brought power, but together they built the game we know today. Electric, global, and still leveling up. And if you thought this was wild, just wait for what comes next. Subscribe for more stories that serve, spike, and surprise. We're just getting started.